Hi, I'm Geeta Srinivasan. In this video, we are going to see about generics in C Sharp. So, what are all the things we are going to cover in this video? So, first, what is C Sharp generics? Then, its applications. Then, you are going to see some example generic classes and a generic method in C Sharp. First, we must understand what is generics in C Sharp. It allows us to defer the specification. That means delay the specification of the data type until we declare an instantiate. So how do we do that? We create a generic parameter T and write a class. Not only the class, method, delegate, so on that can be used with different types of data. So then coming to the benefits. So the important benefits are reusability of the code. Since we can use the same class to work along with different types of data, no need to write separate classes and methods. And then type safety at compile time. We can identify the possible errors at the compilation time instead of the runtime. The next thing is elimination of need of boxing. So, what is boxing? So, unnecessary typecasting and type conversions can be eliminated because of using generic type. Since we can eliminate the necessity of a large code, that is writing separate codes for different types of data, we are going to use a generic class or a method or a generic interface. In that case, we reduce the size of code we are going to write. In that way, it becomes easily maintainable and readable. The next thing is, what are all the important applications of generics? That is the linked lists, hash tables, stacks, queues, and trees. You work along with the different types of data in a linked list, that is strings, integers, floats, etc. So you might have heard about hash tables, right? So it computes the code of each key and stores it in a different buckets. So it is done to optimize the lookups. And then while accessing, it matches the code of the specific key and retrieves. So this is about the hash tables. In that way, to work with different data types, it is used in hash tables. Besides that, it is also used in stacks, queues, and trees. So stacks you might have heard about, right? So it involves last in first out. So in which insertion operation is referred as push and deletion is referred as pop. So in that case also we can use generics to work with different data types such as string, integers and floats. Similarly in queue, which involves enqueue and dequeue, which are the insertion and deletion operations, which involves deleting the older values. So which is referred as first in first out. In trees, which involves a node, that is a root node, that may or may not have some child nodes. So in that cases also generics is very much useful. I have created a simple application to show example of a generic method. So here we have the main function. So here I'm just declaring an integer array and giving some values as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm going to create another array of type double. So now we have two arrays, an integer array and a double array. I'm going to display the values of array and array 2. So here I have just created a display array method of generic type, and inside this I'm using a for each, and here I'm going to get all the elements values inside this array one by one in element, and I'm going to just display all the values. So now here we have just created a display array method, so I'm going to call this method. We have this method, and inside this first I'm going to call this using the first array, and again I'm going to call the display array method. Now I'm going to pass the array 2. So here if you see, we have the main function. Inside that I have created two different types of arrays. One is going to be the integer array and another one is double array. And I have given some integer and double values, that is float values. Then I'm just giving a display array consists of, and then I'm calling the display array method. This display array method here is generic type, and since it is generic type, here I have used the parameter t, and this is going to be the local variable arr, and whatever is inside this r, I'm going to get one by one in element, and I'm going to just print the element. So when I save and execute this particular method, so now you can see that we have the first array, which is an integer array, consists of all the values inside that array, and then array 2 and all the values inside the double array. So in this way, we can use we are using the same method for different types of data, but usually we will write separate method for the different data types and use. Now we are going to see an example for a generic class. I have created another application. I'm going to create another class. So this particular is going to be the generic class. So class of type T. So inside this, I'm going to include a private modifier, which is of type T, and a value. Okay. Now I'm going to include a constructor. So that is going to be the generic type T. So I'm going to set the value for this particular current object to the value which I receive inside the constructor. So now I'm going to include another method which is the display method, and inside this I'm just going to print the value. As I have created an integer type int object for the generic class, and I have passed the value 5 inside the constructor. And now I'm going to call the display method using this particular object. Again, I'm going to create another object for the generic class, and this time it is going to be of type string. I'm going to give some values. So let us consider this is going to be hello world. So again, I'm using this particular string object. I'm going to call the display method. Okay. So now we have a generic class which is going to be of type T, and that with the generic type I have created a value field, and then I have a constructor for the generic class which is of type T, and I'm assigning the value which I received from the constructor to the this particular value field, and then I have a display method. Inside that I'm just going to print the value of the method, sorry, the value, and then inside the main function I have created objects for the generic class. One is of type integer, and I have passed the value 5, and I'm calling the display method. Second time I have the same generic class. Now I'm creating of type string. So and I'm passing the value hello world inside the constructor. Okay. So let me save and run this program. You can see the first time we received the value 5, which we created using the integer type. The second time we call the same display method using the string object. So we received the string hello world. We are using the generic class, and we can use work with the different types of data as we seen here, the integer and string. Hope to see you in the next topic in C#. Thank you. Thanks for watching the video.